Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the Brookings County Commission meeting, Tuesday, October 1st, 2024. We start the meeting with, and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 3 is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any additions or corrections?
Yes, we do need to add personnel for the executive session, SDCL 125-2-1 for personnel.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item number 4 on the agenda is an invitation for a citizen to schedule time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. There is a 5-minute time limit per person. Anyone wanting to speak during this agenda item must sign in prior to the start of the meeting. No commission action will be taken during this agenda item. Any requested action item may be scheduled for a future meeting date. We have a sign-in sheet, and the first person is Shanae White. Would you please come forward?
Hi again. My name is Shanae White. I live in Aurora. I'm here again to talk about the pipeline and about how disappointed I am that none of you guys were at the meeting that we had last week on the informational meeting. I want to point out that somebody from Moody County was there. I went into this meeting last week hoping that my mind would be changed. I was really hoping that that I would come out thinking maybe this pipeline isn't so bad. It's worse. I came out even more. It's even more important that this pipeline does not go in. I invited a friend of mine who was from Brookings County to this meeting. She said, I don't know anything about this pipeline, so I need to come to this meeting. And when we were done, she said, why in the world would anybody want this pipeline in their county? She said, I learned so much about it and the importance of this not coming to our county. I did talk to Larry Jensen. Thank you for reaching out, Larry. I did send a link to this meeting. I did send a link, so he does have it. I'm not sure, Larry, why you couldn't get it, because most people could. So I'm going to say give it a try again, because maybe it was just your area you were in. I want to thank Marty Stanwyck for being there. I informed the Brookings City Police about the meeting the day before. They had an officer there for a short period of time. I told her I appreciated her coming. The city police will be involved when there will be a disaster in this county. Larry did tell me that you guys were aware of this pipeline and that you're keeping up on what's going on. It's hard for us Brookings County residents to know that, because we want to know how you feel about this pipeline. Because right now, as far as I know, this has not been on the agenda. Maybe it was a while ago, but I have not seen it recently. Us taxpayers want to know how you feel about this. What is happening? Are there setbacks? Something has to happen. We want to know what Brookings County is doing about this pipeline. I know all of you are busy. I know you are. I'm guessing this isn't your only job, but you decided to take this role on. You ran for office, people voted for you. The people's expectation is that you do your job. Sometimes this includes going to events in the evening. I'm guessing some of you, you get paid for it, maybe not, but I'm guessing. I work a full-time job. This is not easy for me to be here today, but it's important to me. So that's why I am here. That's why I can't stay for the whole meeting, because I have to get back to work. I feel as a Brookings County Commissioner, you need to represent us. You need to be an advocate for us. As a nurse, I took an oath. I'm an advocate for my patients. If I see an order that isn't right, it's my job to question that order. My main job is to protect my patients. You would want me to be your nurse because I would go to the ends of the earth to protect you. And I feel right now, you guys took an oath, and you guys need to protect us. It's your job to protect the citizens of Brookings County. This pipeline is not good. Start telling us what you are doing about it. You work for us. Start telling us what you guys are doing about this pipeline. This foreign-backed company has 0 setbacks. We all have setbacks to follow. We have setbacks. If I'm building a building, I have to follow, us taxpayers have to follow rules. So please vote no, and please let us know what you are thinking about this pipeline. I also want to let you know, I did talk to Trevor Jones. When I hear on the advertisements, I hear that this is going to bring all sorts of money into our counties. Trevor told me, he said, I hire my own people to come in to develop this pipeline. He said, I don't hire local people. So I just wanted you to know that that came right out of his mouth. Again, I just hope that you guys, please put this on the agenda, please start talking about it, and let us know how you guys are feeling about it. Thank you.
The next on the list is Melissa Elijah.
Thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, I want to say thank you to you county commissioners because I have watched many meetings throughout the state of South Dakota where county commissioners sit there and they look at their phone and they do anything not to look at the folks in front of them. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. This is a hot topic, and I really pray that it's not going to take months of concerned citizens attending these meetings and voicing their concerns for you elected county commissioners to decide to pay attention and protect the citizens of Brookings County. We should not be dismissed as the loud minority. There are many concerned citizens who want you to implement setbacks and ordinances to protect us from the proposed deadly CO2 pipeline that will likely cross parts of Brookings County. I was here last Thursday and invited each one of you to attend the Referred Law 21 informational meeting that took place last Thursday in Brookings. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any one of you were able to attend that meeting. How sad is it that not one person on this publicly elected county commission, nor Bob Hill, the emergency management director, could attend the meeting? Sheriff Marty Stanwyck was the only public servant that I noticed who made an effort and attended the meeting to learn. The Brookings Chamber of Commerce Business Advisory Network has been paying attention. They sent out a survey to business members back in June to take the temperature of Brookings' business community on the proposed CO2 pipeline. There were a number of survey questions asked after prefacing their survey with the following statement. At a high level, Summit Carbon Solutions is proposing a pipeline project that will affect Brookings County. In collaboration with Valero, they plan to install a 6-inch pipeline buried 4 feet deep to capture CO2 and transport it to North Dakota. They are offering landowners compensation of rates 5 to 6 times the average price per acre for those who voluntarily grant easements for the pipeline installation. Summit Carbon Solutions will not own the land. There is much of this high-level information that is inaccurate, but I'll move on and not dwell at that at this time. You'll have to contact the Brookings Chamber of Commerce to get the full listing of questions that were asked in that survey, but I will share with you their results, which state, based on the answers from the survey respondents, the level of support for the CO2 pipeline project averaged 5.8 out of 10. I don't know about you, but that's a red flag that people are not on board with this pipeline. How many of you would proceed to eating at a restaurant after reading a 5.8 out of 10 review? Think about that. A large number of professional business people in the Brookings community are not in favor of this pipeline. The Chamber went on to list thoughtful comments that were left by the survey respondents regarding the pipeline. These comments were included. Several respondents expressed a neutral or uncertain stance due to a lack of detailed knowledge about the pipeline's long-term impact, benefits, and risk. Landowner rights and long-term safety are significant concerns, with many emphasizing the importance of clear, accurate information and protections for landowners. There is a general support for ethanol production and its economic benefits, but some feel that the pipeline may not be the best method to support this industry. Safety concerns specific to CO2 pipelines, such as potential leaks and their impact, are prominent, with the call for more education on the risks and the benefits. Opinions are divided on the overall efficiency and cost effectiveness of the project, with some viewing it as a necessary but flawed approach to energy transportation. I again am asking each one of you elected county commissioners to protect the people who you serve and voted you in. I'll ask you again, why did you want to be a county commission if you'd rather have the state of South Dakota make important decisions for Brookings County residents? I urge you to pass a resolution opposing Referred Law 21 and retaining local control and property rights. And I'd also encourage you to vote no on Referred Law 21. And just to make a comment regarding Janae's answer to you, Mr. Jensen, regarding the meeting, the sound was, the online portion of it that they recorded that night was hit or miss. So I'm not sure you're going to get the full effect of that meeting. There was a professional video person there, and as soon as he's got everything compiled, it'll be online on a YouTube channel. So if you checked out the Madison meeting that was held in August, that's online, it's going to be recorded just like that gentleman did there, and then you'll be able to hear the full meeting well. Thank you for your time.
Next is Jane Payer.
Paper, P-A-Y, F as in Frank, E-R. Good morning.
Morning.
You don't know me, I'm a recent South Dakotan. Moved here because it seemed to me that South Dakota was the last bastion of constitutional freedom. Not an expert on the CO2 matter. I'm not a scientist or a farmer or a rancher. I just have a little place outside of town. I'm outside the proposed pipeline route. I'm outside of what's projected to be a plume area. I'm not here because of fear of a plume. Forgive me if what I'm about to say is stating the obvious, but I want it on the record, so here goes. There are two things that concern me: the speed of this process and the transparency during the process. Let's start with the speed. If you know your history, you know that in 1862, Abraham Lincoln signed the Pacific Railway Act after decades.
Ma'am, could you speak in the microphone a little better?
I go like that, sure. After decades of it being debated, decades. It was one of the very first private partner projects in our country that truly benefited the citizenry. So I know the dates vary by location here in the state of South Dakota, but to the best of my knowledge, around us, the landowners impacted by the CO2 pipeline first became aware in the spring of 2022. That's just a little over 30 months ago. Could something this monumental only have been in the works 2.5 years, 3 years, maybe 3.5? Well, of course not. So let's ask, what's really going on here? And that leads me to the lack of transparency. This is a bit of a history lesson, but because I'm quite a bit older than most of you, I'm going to remind you that Al Gore made climate a congressional issue back in the late 1980s. But before that, there was a whole concern about the coming ice age. You're probably not old enough to remember that, but I do, because I am that old. The data showed that we weren't going to fast freeze, so the environmentalists quickly pivoted their warning cries to global warming from an ice age, and then ozone depletion. Of course, climate data measurement is a tricky business, and they found out that the global warming wasn't quite happening like they thought either, so they changed their language to climate change. That would cover it. And they changed from ozone worriment to CO2. CO2, a minuscule 0.04% part of our atmosphere. That's what's responsible for everything that's going on in their minds. We got to capture it, tuck it away. And along comes the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, and all of a sudden there's an infusion of big money. Smart people know how to use other people's money, especially big federal dollars. But wait a minute. Federal money doesn't really exist, does it? It's printed based on projections of tax revenue, and tax revenue is the money from all of us, now and in the future. That's what they're supposed to base printing money on. The folks in Washington forget that predominantly, but the folks of South Dakota don't. So in 2022, when people started learning about the CO2 pipeline, they started asking a bunch of questions. Wait a consarn minute here, you're gonna do what? Oh, just move some CO2. How are you gonna move it? Through a pressurized pipeline. We do it all the time. Don't worry your pretty little heads about it. They kept asking questions. How are you gonna do it across my land? Why? There are other ways. You know there are other ways. I know there are other ways. And you've heard all these questions repeatedly. Must be hard to listen to them, isn't it? But my question is, are you really listening? These are the pleads of your neighbors, your friends, folks from your congregations, maybe even some of your relatives. Are you hearing them? Do you go home after these meetings with a pit in your stomach? Do you wrestle with what's taking place in our state? Is there a little voice in your head that keeps you awake at night? So here's the deal. Their concerns and mine may be ill-informed. Some may be even flat out wrong. But what if they're not? What if they're kind of right? And what if they're mainly right? What if the risk to your people is really just a big old money grab reward for other people? Let me repeat that. What if the risk to the people who elected you is really just a money grab reward for the other folks upstream of you?
1 minute.
This isn't about market
1 minute.
demand, nor does it really have anything to do with climate. You see my shirt. Do you remember your Old Testament Bible story about Queen Esther? Her uncle Mordecai, the king was conned into believing he should kill all the Jews. And her uncle Mordecai sent this message: if you keep quiet at a time like this, deliverance for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were made for just such a time as this? 3 points. Don't keep silent to protect yourselves. Protect your people. Now's the time. That's your job. Thank you very much.
Jeff Struy.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I'm Jeff Struy. I live on the southwest edge of the city of Brookings. I'm also going to talk on the pipelines because when I ran for the legislature, I used a little flyer as one of my speaking points that I handed to every person. And it's not titled SB 201, the Landowner's Bill of Rights. It's titled The Great South Dakota Land Grab. And ironically, the 2 bullet points I put at the beginning was about the illegal use of eminent domain that forces a product by high pressure through pipelines, where a product is neither purchased nor sold from endpoint to endpoint. The South Dakota Supreme Court just ruled that Summit Carbon Solutions is not a common carrier and does not transport a commodity. Imagine that. Got that one right. Number 2, safety. You never heard Summit Carbon Solutions talk anything about a plume, safety concerns, how big it is, where it'll end up. But the good funny thing is they had a speaker Thursday night that would have told you all about it, and he spoke for 20 minutes. His name is Tim Kenyon. He's a geologist. He spent his life working on pipelines, and he told us exactly the difference between petroleum, CO2, natural gas pipelines, and he explicitly stated that the CO2 pipeline is a detriment to society because of the high pressure, because it's an asphyxiant, because when it does spread, it spreads downhill. And if there's a wind, does South Dakota have wind? Absolutely. It can double the distance. So a 24-inch pipeline could spread roughly 6 miles. So take a pipeline for Aurora, that takes out a lot of Brookings. You're not worried yet? We've talked to the sheriff about his vehicles that he has. He has no electric vehicles. He has no oxygen in his vehicles. How are they going to respond? How are fire departments going to respond to a pipeline leak? They simply can't, because it's not going to go in there to try to rescue somebody. They're going to go in there and take people out after something's happened to them. Summit Carbon Solutions wants to take this and bury it underground. That's why it's not a commodity. They'll get $85 a ton, according to the entity that are federal dollars. And who's going to pay for that? Landowners. So the landowners that don't want it are going to have to end up paying for it anyway and have their land taken away from them. That makes a lot of sense. Makes no sense. Anyway, I don't think I have anything else except there was an economist, his name is Doyle Turner, and he spoke as an opponent to it, and he basically addressed the economic development portion. Right now, our legislators, all three of them, voted for it, expecting it to be labeled an economic development. It is not, because there's no product. It's just being piped to be buried underground. Nobody buys it, nobody sells it. So what's the best deal for South Dakota? He did give a solution, and it's to do away with the pipeline situation. It's not to ship it up to North Dakota to be buried underground. He said that he's working with 2 companies that can capture the carbon, put it on site at every one of the ethanol plants, and create what's called a building methanol plants to utilize carbon dioxide locally, which would add value to farming outputs. I urge you to watch this video when it comes out. It's loaded with information. I wish I would have stayed for the questions and answers, but I had something to go on too. But I did listen to all the speakers in their entirety. I thank you for your time.
Sharon Larson.
Good morning. I'm going to touch really quickly on the meeting the other night and pick up where Jeff left off. And then I've got something I'd like to read. One of the things that he said he didn't stay for the question and answer. One of the questions that I posed was, and I can't remember the name of the town in Mississippi, Tisharta, something like that, in Mississippi, where they did have a pipeline break. That pipeline break was their topography, their geography down there was compared to South Dakota's, and someone here, not on the commission, but someone else here said that it's not apples to apples because the topography is different. The geologist that was there the other night, Tim Kenyon, I asked a question and asked him about it, and he said it's very comparable, our area. So there is the potential for a pipeline break. We have flooding here, and flooding can affect it. If we had a pipeline going through near Sioux City, where they had all that horrible flooding in June, that would have been all it would have taken to have a pipeline break there, and that would have been a mess. The other thing I'm going to do is read a post that representative from District 16, Carla Lems, put on Facebook last night. And if you want to look it up and read it yourself, it's good information. I'm going to skip over the introduction, but one of the things that she said was, the World Economic Forum is pushing agendas in many areas that will bring more control to them and less to individuals. They propose policies that are then adopted by organizations like the United Nations. One of these policies said that we must reduce our carbon score. It's called Net Zero by 2050. This came to the United Nations in the form of the Inflation Reduction Act, which has a special tax break called 45Q for companies that reduce CO2 into the atmosphere. This translates into billions of dollars for these projects. Where do those billions of dollars come from? The money for these fake projects comes from taxes that hardworking citizens pay. The 45Q tax credit spurred 2 carbon pipeline projects in South Dakota, Navigator and Summit Carbon Solutions. They claimed the right of eminent domain. Summit sued over 160 landowners and several counties in our state. Each company sought a permit from the South Dakota Public Utilities Commission. Both companies were denied a permit from the PUC. Why? Because they failed to meet one of the core requirements, which states the company must abide by all applicable laws and rules. Since they could not meet ordinances and setbacks that certain counties had in place, they failed the test. Local control had a voice that day. Local control had a voice that day. Navigator disbanded, but Summit marched ahead. Fast forward to the 2024 legislative session. Many property rights bills were brought forward, with some bringing needed, reasonable reforms. However, only 3 made it to the finish line. The majority leaders in both chambers dubbed these the Landowner Bill of Rights. Let's stop right there. As I stated on the floor, and remember, this is Carla Lem speaking. As I stated on the floor, these were not the Landowner Bill of Rights, these were the Pipeline Bill of Rights. It was the media spin and money in the room that landed these on the governor's desk. The most egregious of these bills was Senate Bill 201. This bill essentially strips local control away from certain projects that require permitting from the South Dakota PUC. In South Dakota, we have something most states do not, a referendum process. That means if the people think the legislators got it wrong, they can refer the decision to the voters. The hurdle is getting 17,000 plus petition signatures in 90 days. South Dakotans across 66 counties went to work, and over 31,000 signatures were collected. Since that time, many informational meetings have and continue to be held across the state. One thing that was argued again and again in the legislature is that these companies did not meet the requirements for eminent domain, which included them being considered a common carrier carrying a commodity. This summer, a huge ruling came down from the South Dakota Supreme Court. The court ruled that Summit Carbon Solutions had not proven that it met the conditions of a common carrier or that it was carrying a commodity. This brought validation to many who had argued this very thing for 3 years. My comment.
1 minute.
Thank you. My comment, remember that this is a private company. It is not for public. It's not for public. All of these things contribute to the information you should have before voting on RL 21. I'll tell you my top 3 reasons to vote no on RL 21. I could list many, but let's keep it simple. Takes away local control in Section 6 of the bill. The denial of a permit based on following applicable laws and rules is now removed. A permit for the construction of a transmission facility supersedes and preempts any county, township, municipal, or any other governmental unit land use, zoning, or building rule, regulation, or ordinance. Number 2, many legislators fill a dissent upon the passage of this bill, stating reasons that it is unconstitutional. Number 3, sets a precedence for out-of-state and possibly foreign-backed companies to have only one centralized government hoop to jump through. The government that is closest to the people governs best. Let's make sure that we continue to have checks and balances here in our state. The PUC process we presently have works well in conjunction with our process of ordinances and setbacks instituted by the local governments.
That's the time limit, so.
Is that it? Okay, all right. I'm just going to close with, I wish you guys had been there. There was so much information. There was so much really good information.
Moving on to item number 5, the consent agenda items. Includes the minutes, travel and education, personnel action notices, cellular authorizations, human services report. Do I have motion approved?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Any additions, corrections? Hearing none, call a roll, please.
Vanderwall.
Aye.
Krogman.
Aye.
Hostler.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 6, routine business, approval of the claims. Do I have motion approved?
So moved.
Second.
Have motion and second. Any comments? Call the roll, please.
Krogman.
Aye.
Hostler.
Aye.
Vanderwall.
Aye.
Jensen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B is department head reports. Brian from the Highway Department.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, I know it's not been that long since we met, but got some updates here. The local federal bridge grant that we received back in 2020 for structure 06210-098, 3 miles west and 2.7 miles south of White was opened. There's a couple underlying things that need to be taken care of, which is seeding and fencing. Looking at seeding tomorrow, and we will get taken care of fencing hopefully next week. And the second local federal bridge grant that we got for 06287-040, which is 4.0 miles north and 4.6 east of White, anticipated to be paved tomorrow. And then again, seeding and fencing needs to follow after that. Countywide striping is completed as of 9/26, and the structure that we're working on, 211050, 3 miles north and 3 miles west of White, we removed the structure yesterday, and we will be setting the box tomorrow, and we're still scheduled to be open on Thursday before the weekend. So that's kind of a wrap up to a busy construction season, which is good to say on the 1st of October.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Bob from zoning?
Good morning. We are out of COVID-19 kits. The kits we had on hand expired. And as far as I've been notified by the state of South Dakota, there will be no more COVID kits available for us. So members of the public that need or feel they have COVID-19 needs to contact their local health authorities or purchase the kits through a local pharmacy. Yesterday, I got a call about 3 o'clock. National Weather Service reported a hot spot that they picked up on one of their weather satellites in the sky. And they said it was a hot spot 5 miles south of Esteline, northwest of Bruce. And that was a fire that the Esteline Fire Department and the Bruce Fire Department had been called out to. So I think it's just good to let the county commission know that the National Weather Service is keeping an eye on us from the sky, and it works. I called the non-emergency 911 line just to see if they had been notified of it, and they said, yep, we had already dispatched Esteline and Bruce to the fire. So that just shows our federal partners working with our local partners, and that it does work. So, and of course, yesterday was a burn ban because we was in a red flag conditions, and we put that message out over our messaging systems. And this fire happened to be a combine fire, so there was no illegal burning. It wasn't caused from illegal burning. It was just a farm accident that happens quite a bit during this time of the year. The Madera Township drainage situation, we do have a draft operations and maintenance manual on hand. The next step that I plan on doing probably next week is trying to set up a meeting with East Dakota Water Development District, the 2 county commissioners that's been working with me, and the highway superintendent, so we can at least go over the operations manual and see. We don't necessarily need banners involved in this discussion. We need to look at the operations maintenance manual ourselves, figure out what we can physically do in-house, and then what we'll have to contract out for. So I'll get a copy of that to all the parties that don't have it, and I'll go ahead and send it to the whole county commission. As I'll send it to Stacy, and she can put it wherever she needs to. But you can look next week. I'll try to set up a meeting, and we'll see what happens on that. And I think that's about all I had. We do have the rest of it's in the staff report that I got out. One thing that we probably need to inform the public, we had this big disaster on this hurricane that did the damage in Florida, but then it moved up the coast. And all these houses that's flooded, I'm hearing like 80% of them don't have flood insurance because they was told they didn't need it. That's a dangerous thing for an insurance agent to say. Anybody can get flood insurance. Brookings County participates in a national flood insurance program. If you feel that if we have a localized flood similar to what they had, and some of them places had up to 20 inches of rain, and I don't know. I'd recommend if a citizen could afford it to look at flood insurance. Talk to your insurance agent. Flood insurance is available on any property in Brookings County, and pray for the people out on the East Coast that's whole communities. We had a community issue down in North Sioux City, terrible. This is magnified probably 25 times over on the East Coast. So that's all I have. Any questions?
Questions, Bob?
Thank you.
Bob, I had a question. The red flag warning yesterday, does that carry into today, or will another one be issued if needed?
Well, if they put out another red flag, it would be carried today. But the way the ordinance is written, yesterday would have been from 1 o'clock to 8 o'clock. That's when the red flag warning was issued for. So people should not burn during those times. Any other time, you just call 692-2113 and let the dispatch people know you're burning, and they contact the local fire department and all that. But there should be no burning during a red flag, because the winds can just pick it up and just...
Okay, thank you. No other department heads. We'll move on. Item number 7, we don't have any scheduled agenda items. We'll move on to regular business. Action approve agreement number 24-89, an application for occupancy of the right-of-way of county highway made by Sioux Valley Energy in Sterling Township. We have motion approved.
So moved. Second.
We have motion and second. Any comments?
County Road 9, north of Brookings.
No further comments. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item B is action to approve IT service and software policy for Brookings County. Do I have a motion approved?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Comments?
I really don't have too many comments other than if approved, this will be sent out to staff and added to our handbook as well.
Okay. Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item C, action to close out Fund 304, the jail expansion and remodel fund, and transfer the remaining fund balance amount of $10,010.77 to the general fund. Do I have motion approved?
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Any comments?
The 304 fund was our jail project fund. That project has officially been wrapped up. We need to close out that capital fund, basically. There's just a little over $10,000 left in there. My recommendation would be to move those dollars back to the general fund. Legislative audit said we can move them to the building fund, the 301 fund, or the general fund, wherever we basically took money from to pay for it. We took from both, but with $10,000, I think just send it back to the general fund.
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carried. Item D, action to automatically supplement for unanticipated expenses incurred and reimbursement made to the Brookings County Emergency Management General Line, GL Line 226-4-222-4294 for $2,074.31 for reimbursement for the South Dakota Department of Health grant. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any comments?
This is actually, we just now put it on as a budget line for revenue on our budget, which we'll look at in 2026, obviously, because they work on some odd thing from May 31st to like June the next following year. So in 2026 budget, we'll put a revenue line where we can start accounting for these Department of Health grants. This is money I use for the Pandemic Planning Coordinating Committee and the points and dispensing committees that we spend to have meetings, and we turn a claim into Department of Health, and then they reimburse us up to a certain amount. So we'll start adding it as a budget line, so we won't have to supplement it in the future years. So, thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carried. Item number 9 is Commission Department Directors Report.
Included with my report is the 2025 calendar. We discussed this a little bit at the meeting last week, made a change to the May meeting, moving that to the 4th Tuesday due to the NACO WEIR Western Interstate Region Conference being held in Rapid City that week of the 19th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. So this in front of you should be the final calendar for meetings for 2025. The other thing I got word of at the end of last week was the state rates, specifically the mileage reimbursement rate, is changing again. I know it went up July 1st. It's going up again today. We do have a resolution in place that says we'll follow state rates. So just letting you know, it went up from, I think it was like 65 or 66 cents to now 67 cents for the mileage. I think there might have been something with hotel rates too, but I'm not sure that those changed. But yeah, so they did a July 1 change, and now they're doing an October 1 change. So just wanted to keep you informed of that. Other than that, just upcoming dates. Tomorrow, there is a couple of different things going on. Board of Regents social out at McCrory Gardens from 5:30 to 8. They are there, and I know SDSU President Dunn had mentioned at one of the meetings that we were at that you are all welcome to attend that. Brookings School District is actually having open houses at the new schools tomorrow as well. Unfortunately, those events kind of overlap, 5:30 to 7:30 at both Hillcrest and Madera. So if you want to go check out the new schools, there's open houses tomorrow. Hobo Day on the 12th. And for the rest of October, October's kind of filling up. We'll be closed on Monday for Native American Day holiday. I think a couple of you, I've given you your Prairie Nightingale Fall Social e-vite information for you. And then at the next meeting in 2 weeks on the 15th, once again, we have the department head evaluations. Make sure you get those turned in to Kristen if you haven't yet. That'll be that afternoon. And then the Chamber Legislative Roundtable on October 23rd. That's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
Okay. State's Attorney's Office report. Item number 11 is Commissioner reports and discussion items. Commissioner Vanderwall.
Thank you. We just met a week ago, and I had a busy week at work, so I was not able to attend anything this past week.
Okay, Commissioner Krogman.
Yeah, I had a beta meeting, but was unable to attend because of sickness, so that's all I have to report.
Commissioner Hostler.
Yeah, on the 26th, we had the Domestic Abuse Center Board meeting, talked about budgets and finalizing budgets there. And on the 30th, just yesterday, we had a Outdoor Adventure Center Board meeting. And that is my report.
Okay. On the 27th, I had Extension Board meeting. The good news is 4-H numbers continue to increase. And also the 4-H volunteers, which is nice to see, is almost doubled in the last 10 years. They're up to 80 volunteers, so that's great. Sign up for shooting sports is coming up shortly. And yesterday on the September 30th, had a BCOAC Advisory Board meeting, and that would round out my report too. Item number 12 is executive session in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2. We have a motion to enter executive session.
So moved.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carried.